Good afternoon, Jan Baan. It's great to have you on the ERP Perspective.
George, my pleasure, my honor.
Thank you. Like, I know we've known each other for some time, and yeah, you've been a massive part for my education with enterprise resource planning systems, and yeah, you've always been a massive help for me. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I've already done a bit sort of an introduction to Rappit and yourself, but it'd be great to hear from you, your journey. I know a lot of people know about you in the industry, but if you could give a quick introduction to the audience who Jan Baan is, that would be fantastic.
Okay, 47 years on my entrepreneurial journey, started in 1978. And in my presentation, I will give more details around this one. But even I changed 3 times. First, built ERP. Then, after 20 years, end of last century, came to the conclusion that everything we did, it was not a browser, was incorporated. And I started again from scratch. And I will, in my presentation, will explain a little. And then later we moved to what we called from business processes in the infancy of the internet, again to the core elements of AI and all the stuff therein. But that will be more real and built in my presentation.
I know in this episode it's a little bit different, and we'll have 2 different versions of this episode. So one will be Jan Baan's presentation, so you can gauge what he's doing with Rappit and his background. And then we'll also have an episode, sort of the questions on vibe coding and our other topic. But yeah, I'll hand it over to you, Jan, and we'll start with your presentation.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, yeah, let's start. I call it now modernizing of ERP. That means ERP, in my opinion, is still a real something like the mother of all complexity, a real the legacy part. And we're moving, we say, okay, even today, the kids from Google who understand everything from artificial intelligence, etc., do not understand real the core of ERP. And therefore, we say we decouple it, but it should be agentic driven with microservices and focusing on what we call the real the job to be done. My journey started in 78 as Baan company. In 87, we built already a software factory in India. It was quite real unique. 10 years before even Oracle or SAP came in India. Acquired for a third using a venture capital firm, Jan Atlantic Partners. They invested 33 million for a third of the company in 1993, but they collected in 1998 $1 billion. That means they helped us, even propelling us international, and therefore we are winning. The most precious deal was the Boeing deal in 1994, and the deal propels us real to what we call IPO. And that means you need a market maker to a certain point. And Boeing was our market maker. 40,000 ERP users on logistics. We were able to integrate them and winning them from Oracle and SAP. But it was a really propelling element. We became unicorn on Nasdaq. 98, I should say the company changed a little from customer intimacy all the years, but with fancy capital, you go more to shareholders value and even more to M&A. And in my opinion, even that moved too much. And I came to the conclusion the show is over. And in 1998, I decided there to stop and started a new element. And the company later on was acquired by Infor. Even today is the core of Baan is real, the core, the diamonds in the portfolio of Infor. But I moved from systems of record to what we call here the systems of differentiation. Bring everything end to end in a business process manner. And what I did, even with my money after the IPO, even I invested under 50 million in 2 small companies those days, WebEx and Top Tier. And I was the only investor in WebEx those days, quite early, and Top Tier. There was real, say, SaaS companies where I learned a lot. My goal was to unite them together and work in the slipstream of ERP with internet technology, but I failed because the board was not so much happy to do this. They were more, say, acquiring divested shares. Therefore, quit, moved again herein, and later I'll come back a little, but moved. And over time, Chorus is acquired by OpenText, but I move in the third wave with the Chorus Process Factory, even recalled in the way of, say, the real systems of innovation. From systems of record to systems of innovations. That means 2 times a quit, and that was an important element. That means what I did, if you look to it, from 1984, we were quite unique with the Baan shell, having this simple equipment, these microcomputers were already a Baan shell, database independent, hardware independent, and this attitude has helped us totally. But now and after where we are today, from 26, real in the heart of AI, now there's a big step between, but more the way of thinking was more or less the same. And that's maybe important to realize that. From here, quit and going, and I come there a little, and then moving here. Now, what it means is, We built this not only in the Baan shell, but even in a very structured way, ERP. What is ERP? Most people don't understand ERP. But real ERP is still market, scheduling, PS, business planning, everything is integrated. And most people do not have this master scheduling, etc. But it was real complicated there, and we were able, with our tools, with this B shell, to build all this type of stuff. And we had our famous customer or decouple point. It means you could handle every form of manufacturing, say repetitive, make to order, make to stock, assemble to order, product configurator. And this decouple point means between generic ERP or customer specific, and we could do it all in one model. That's even today unique. SAP cannot do this still today. There are 4 different versions to handle all this stuff. But with this famous decouple point, was also a unique element to build this stuff in. Now, early in India, even after my IPO, I had money and I bought this whole campus and I rented out for thousands of people. Also ourselves we are in, but have given me a reputation in India dealing with the Prime Minister in the state of Andhra Pradesh. I was in Hyderabad, but even the core people are still with me. But it was unique and it was our real assets to learn the Indian world therein. Now, 1998, on the highest point of Baan, I should say, became in the leadership quadrant of Gartner, 1908, and Gartner mentioned the 3 leaders, and maybe PeopleSoft, but PeopleSoft even is not ERP, if you look to it, but SAP the biggest and Baan the best. And Oracle, maybe if you can't buy an off-the-shelf product, then you do it with a database, do it yourself. But I've been there. Now, what means that herein, we moved even with SAP all the years, rebuild it, etc. I invested in top tier, and my idea was to be top tier on Baan. I failed, and that means I sold top tier to SAP. The US, I had 80% of top tier in it, and Hassel-Plattner bought it for 400 million and used it for NetWeaver, but even it failed maybe a little. But I quit a little, and we moved from here, not in ERP together, but more what we call in this BPM world with Cordis. And my highest point on Cordis with the Process Factory, my board was not so much in favor with this innovative stuff we did, and I quit again, and I took this for the 3rd time with me with this collaborative point therein. That means what means it? ERP became for me the mother of all complexity. But what is ERP? It's an SQL database. Even if today we have our big data, but no one is even dealing with big data. Everyone is dealing this SQL database still. It's vendor lock-in, and we call it best practice, but best practice is not operational excellence. When SAP is talking over best practice, they like to sell what they have, but they are not in the customer intimacy world, what they do therein. Then we moved to what we call the BPM world. You build an enterprise service bus, you have an orchestrator, BPM, and you focus on, say, web-enabled UI. Everything is in a browser. Realize that ERP was not in a browser. You bring everything in a browser, and you bring one version of the truth. It means you bring all these silos together. And that's what you can see here. Okay, you take these silos and integrate them in an enterprise service bus, but in a grid foundation, and bring all those individual silos end-to-end together with your business services, your master data, and link them together under a business process management suite. And even added to them case management. These are transactional oriented systems, but here you take case management in the business process and you have a rule engine and you change the rules every minute. Now, it was amazing technology, beginning of this century, but the CIOs were not used for this. They still were staying here. They say, I'm not fired by Oracle or SAP. And I did not expect that it took so long before the people understand this. But it's amazing technology, and we moved even those days already, early 80s, to what we called a composing framework with low code, where you have everything, where you have take documents together, and we call this a business operating platform. Now, what means this? It is business operating platform. We move more and more to the human. But what we saw means you take your ERP solutions together, you have the human, but the human, we are still dealing with Microsoft, with Word, with Excel, PowerPoint, SharePoint. Ooh, this is terrible if you look to this stuff. And still, ERP is maybe in the back end integrated, but the human are individual dealing with documents, unstructured data. It's even today a lot. The value is in the downstream. The workflow is making the EBITDA, the net profit. And even today, people are struggling here. Now, we fixed this already in the 80s and end of the end, say, especially beginning of this world. We say, okay, this should go to big data and to improve this type of stuff. That means we moved here from the first pillar was integrate them, EPM integration. The second is you take human case-related stuff. You have your transaction engine and you have your rules engine. You unite them together. And then you go, what you say, in the third wave, the composite wave. Yeah, you take the documents, the workflow, what I mentioned therein. Now, what means is the Gartners and if the analysts were mentioning even, say, in 1998, Gartner ranked us in the top. But here in 2014, even Forrester ranked us in PaaS, platform as a service, real in the top with Salesforce, Google, SaveMaker. Gartner was still in the top. And it is PaaS, platform as a service. But here we have what we call BPM. And even in BPM, IDC ranked us even in the top. Say maybe you have Oracle with Fusion. Now you have TIBCO, Fujitsu, IBM, Progress. And two of those elements we are again leading. With internet technology, what we were in Baan's time with silo technology. But I came to the conclusion it's obsolete, we quit. And for the third time we quit. That means what we did here, say, okay, we take this ERP solutions, you have your spreadsheets, your legacy enterprise, and even you see you have your consumers, human, you bring them on what we say more on a browser, and you bring all those cloud servers together, and we moved them to enterprises. And I did a lot of stuff with Valeo, a company, leading company automotive, more than 100,000, 110,000 employees. And I spent 15 years in building type of Lotus Notes type of activities. Now, that means we came to the conclusion, ERP, let it stay. You have the SQL data, let's see it as a castle and see the legacy of ERP, let it stay, couple it, and bring some things in new ways. And that's what you see here. If you look to even where people are struggling, even in if you look to SAP, going from ECC to HANA, you have to be what you say an artist to deal with all this stuff. It's very, very complicated. You have 100,000 database tables, and we call it best practice, but best practice is not operational excellence. In best practice, you're selling as a vendor standpoint what you're doing, but you're not optimizing the customer. Now, here we're struggling more and more. It's rigid. And here you have less contribution for agentic AI. It's too complicated. It's dangerous to bring agentic AI in, and I will show it to you. Now, what means it? If you deal in this world, in this ERP with AI, it's like having a Ferrari engine on a broken bicycle. And the broken bicycle is the ERP stuff. It means you destroy it totally. This tremendous dangerous to bring this ERP, this AI stuff in this world. And why is it? Because here is fragmented features, and you see is if you cannot deal with all this stuff there, AI in this legacy element. Now, what we built 3 databases. We moved the ERP part from the back end in the SQL database, we pick it up, and immediately we bring it in a data lake where we will everything in what we call in BigQuery and Elasticsearch. It means we have 3 databases totally united together and bring it further. And this is our secrets elements. Now let me explain that a little more here. That means what we see ERP as the iron fort, the castle. You have the statical SQL data and see it as an accountant. Everything here is a deterministic system. It's very specific. You can't take the uncertainty of the probabilistic elements of AI. And here you need a guardrail. And you bring this SQL data in a data stream. And that is a semantic data stream with Google BigQuery and even what we see with Elasticsearch. And here you have the poet. The poet is my butler, is the AI guy who can do some things probabilistic. It's not 1 and 1 is 2. It's approximately. But if I'm doing it better than my competitor, I win everything here. But it is dangerous if you bring these agents here in. They destroy everything. And people are not aware on this one. But it is what it makes it extremely dangerous. You see Oracle, SAP investing billions in AI, but have no meaning. AI is too complicated. This world is too complicated to use AI. But what we do, we take the data in a data lake, but even call it a digital twin in a flexible fleet. This is our secret. Here we make our big differences. I mean, step by step, we can rebuild it. I will code that in. But here we win everything. Now, what it means is, here we do our secret source. Coca-Cola will never go to SAP to ask them to do their receptions. Every company has their secret source. And what you do today, you build your secret source in an SAP system, in an Oracle system. And if you do your AI and you give it to the vendor, it should be stupid. The vendor should never own your secret source. You should own it yourself. And that's what you do in your microservices in the downstream elements. With your secret source, bring it in, decouple from your legacy, and bring this already in microservices and decouple your, say, ERP solutions. Now that means what we do therein, we build what we call a totally deployment element, our software factory for many years, where we have all the DevOps and everything. And here we see we do the whole infrastructure, but all the customer infrastructure also the same done. Here you go from all your artifacts from the beginning to the end, everything are productized. We did it already in Baan. We did it again in the internet, and we did it for a third time now, totally in the infrastructure as a service with Google. That means you bring everything from business analysts, you like to do it, and you generate your source code. That's what we did. You have your UX, your runtime, and all the stuff therein. This a real manufacturing process of productization of services. And that means we do the totally, say, the software development lifecycle are totally under control from the beginning to the end. That's a crucial part. Most vendors have it not under control. That means if you look to a developer, to the UI, there's a lot between. The development lifecycle is totally between, and companies like us should have it totally under control. You simplify it, you reduce it, combine it, and here you can do it very friendly, bring everything in your mobile oriented, but here bring it all together. Now what it means is, it means that you struggle, and yeah, when I moved from Baan's time, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we did everything on the internet. That means SaaS, software as a service. That means you have to deal with a lot of complicated stuff. It's not so easy. And this was done in the infancy of the internet. But over time, you have seen a few ones, like Amazon, like Azure, Microsoft, like Google. They became leaders in what we called infrastructure of the service. That means those three care for everything. But if you're Salesforce, if you're SAP, you have to care still yourself. Now we throw it away for a third time and say we understood the DevOps. That means all those DevOps, etc., were done here in this area already, and we know what it's doing. And it means now we can delegate it to the Googles, etc. That means that increase 10 times my productivity of development on the latest technology. That means those who are in SaaS are a little obsolete in the infancy of the internet, like Mendix, like OutSystems, etc. Now we moved for the third time to real the infrastructure service instead of SaaS. Now that means here we have what we call all our components as a manufacturing company. And if you are a manufacturing company, what do you have? Bill of material. This is our bill of material to build a car. All those components are controlled with a bill of material. Here we deal with all these open elements and only once, and we can refresh it every time. That's unique. But every time we can reconfigure this one. Take care for this whole manufacturing process. Now I will come back on it, but it's crucial. Instead of doing it here ourselves, we say let's do, and this DevOps, we have it totally under control, open, and even on, say, the tools, etc. Now that gives us a totally unique element in what we call evergreen or refreshing software. That means we avoid vendor lock-in. From here, we are generating plain Java code, everything totally old. We have no vendor lock-in, and we go real to what we call operating excellence. Means your unique process should be unique. And here we make everything unique based on generic ERP components. And we can do both therein. Now, what it means is, now in 2026, our vision and strategy means from lines of code to business outcome. Now, that means we are no longer building applications. We are composing autonomous outcomes for the enterprise, continuously to improve this stuff. Now, what it means is, if you look to it, now you deal with this old legacy, and now we have a secret weapon. Instead of dealing with all those legacy, we can do it with reverse engineering. Instead of this, we can generate this stuff. And that is a big differentiator. With all those tools, what we have, we can re-engineer all the screens and everything. Instead of a rip and replace, we generate and do it again and again and again. If I need a new version of Java, I have to immediately configure it, and it's again done. These unique elements, software, like you have your autopilot in your Tesla car, maybe every 2 weeks the car is totally renewed with the autopilot, because we have no real material. That makes it the biggest differentiator. Now what it means is, and that is the unique element, we are not a startup. When I came from Baan, I did it with a skunk word. And a skunk word means we came in Baan, we built totally something new, and I took it then later out. Like ASML, the biggest company in Europe, came from Philips, but not as a startup. For many years, it came out of Philips. And for a startup, it's too simple. to do this. Means we took all the knowledge with us and did it again, built Baan. And then we moved from even going more in Chorus time to the workflow, etc. And say, okay, and Chorus sold for even, they have open text. And for the second part, we did again there what we call a skunk word. And move it here in the world of what we call real vital based computing, the third wave. Our foundation is done in 47 years again and again and again. It makes us totally unique in the whole industry. With the maturity, what we did, you cannot invest it in a small startup. Now that means what we see now, the big ones are dealing, SAP and Oracle, ServiceNow, Palantir, Snowflake. Those companies from nothing came already to hundreds of billions of market cap. Palantir, 400 billion. We see Oracle, 500 billion SAP. But the top is still the third layer, the application layer. We are the only one here, and we can link them together. But we can continue and bring all those stuff together. Now, what it means is, let me come a little quick. Say, there was if you look to NVIDIA, and Jason was even in Davos, now the energy layer, chips layer. You see even NVIDIA, and we see it, ASML, the cloud. You have the cloud, and then you have the AI layer. But on top, AI, on top we have there what we called the application layer. And we were always an owner of the stack. What I mentioned you in this, what we had is the Baan shell, we own already the whole stack. In Core is the same. Now again, we are the owner of the stack. And we can bring the whole stack into business. And there is no yet applications here. They deal with different elements. Means our application on top of this AI stuff. What means is that if you look at all these layers, all these zones, that means from here we are stack owner and we bring end-to-end processes here in this layer together. Our secret sauce is bring for the job to be done. And it makes the differentiator now. These companies are making, say, NVIDIA, what is it, trillions of market cap. But they're only making their money from sales, but not from a customer. The money is not yet made from the customer. Here we're making the customer more rich because we're dealing with the customer and let the customer make some more money. It makes us unique in the situation. Now that means, and very quick coming to a conclusion. Last couple of weeks, people say vibe coding. And vibe coding means killing everything. If you are not a developer, you can do vibe coding and you build your coding, but it's dangerous. If you're a business consultant, you can do vibe coding, but you generate immediately and you can run it, but you don't know what the code is. And you cannot control it. And you cannot control it in what I mentioned, the whole world, say, from this one. Now we put all stuff here in. Now that means what we do here, instead of vibe coding, we bring everything on top in this area and use the element in vibe coding not to generate it, but bring this in our platform, our Rappit platform. That means this for many years what we generate is still there. And it's still the Java controlled code. We call it enterprise grade vibe computing. Enterprise grade, and those people cannot do enterprise grade. Now, what we see now, we have two elements. Now, I move from this whole stuff therein. Now, that means that brings me in different elements, enterprise grade, vibe computing, but also model based, and we have all those tools below us, if you look to here. Now, what means is, coming to a conclusion, you see this vibe computing like Mendix, our systems are growing fast. They're close to, a couple of billions of market cap. But they are coming in dangerous with these vibe computing companies. This company is only for a year on the market of only 2 billion market cap. But they're growing extremely here with the generating code, but they can't do this. It's enterprise grade. And these people cannot do this. Now, this makes Cordis totally unique in the whole industry to do the enterprise grade vibe computing. Now, this makes us the core what we go now in AI. With vibe-driven, but great vibe-driven computing. Now, that means we can deal still decoupling this legacy. We go in our data layer with BigQuery, Elasticsearch. That means here what we have is totally link them together, and the agents can deal without risk. They're not dealing here. And the agents are my butlers helping me, and that means here my productivity is increased 4 times. My EBITDA will be tripled. Here, when we go to an installation, people say next year we do an implementation. It means our EBITDA is going down. ERP is consuming EBITDA. Here we are propelling EBITDA. We increase the EBITDA propeller. Now that makes a totally differentiator. And let me come to a conclusion. In this semantic data layer, is crucial. You secure it here, and you have all the freedom. That means we bring everything now what we call in this reverse engineering, and we have a printer bring it again. I mean, with all those steps, say step 0, phase 0, with all those models, we do this whole reverse engineering and bring it here in. Now, what means this here? Means I can deal with all those backend systems and see every screen and everything, and we can pick it up with all those models, and here do this reverse engineering stuff and bring it in our Java printer and have our secret sauce, make it again and rebuild this one. Now, what makes it unique? VDR is saying we're going to the digital twin. That means our AI can be simulated 1 million times before we give it in the hands of a human. If you see a robot and a robot is going from here to this, there's a lot of stuff to learn. You make pictures 1 million times and you learn the robot 1 million times to do it. Now that's what we see now. If we decouple this one in this, say, intelligent area, we are there in a new world, in a simulative world, who really makes all the difference in doing this stuff. Now, and I mentioned already this stuff, coming here to the conclusion, what makes it therein. Now, and again, I'm happy that even we are just ranked by Third Stage Consulting, again, with the top 10 ones, as even a youngster coming in. Those people have billions of market cap. They took us as number 10 in their real new platform vendors like a Snowflake, a Palantir, a Salesforce, ServiceNow, Microsoft, or Oracle NetSuite, Infor, or Odoo, etc., but in a new way. I'll bring this together. George, I hope that this gives a real foundation now for our questions. I realize that I did it in 47 years, in all these steps, bring it together, but came from ERP, came from the business processes, and now go to the whole downstream workflow, the job to be done.
It was a fantastic presentation. And as I mentioned, I'll create a separate video for that full presentation so people can watch the interview and the podcast, but also check out that presentation that you just did. So I'll make sure to link that. And obviously quite a lot of the questions will be in reference to the presentation you just did. So thank you for presenting that.